the saga of Black America and the organization that came to its rescue in the special four-part series, The Longest Struggle. This story is about the Africans' adaptation in a new land. Many immigrant groups came to America and in a few generations attained first-class citizenship. One group, however, is the clear exception. Prejudice and discrimination toward the descendants of Africans persist to this day. Therefore, the fight for the basic American guarantees of freedom of equality and human rights has been the longest struggle. Although the characters may be cast as black and white, the story is one of right and wrong. For the first time, these missing pages from history come to life.
I'm the African, the colored, the Negro, the black, the Bilalian, the African American, and the Afro-American. I've seen it all.
I'm the voice of racial hatred. I've been around a long time.
This history begins where slavery ended. It starts with the tremendous progress of blacks during the decade following the Civil War. Blacks had statewide voting majorities in Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, and South Carolina. And throughout the South, they maintained the balance of aggregate political power as Republicans. P.B.S. Pinchback became governor of Louisiana, and Blanche K. Bruce, one of two blacks who served as U.S. senators from Mississippi, considered by many to be the most liberal state in the Union. In 1878, the House of Representatives in South Carolina became the first official body in Western civilization with a black majority. Black-dominated Southern legislatures created racially integrated and free public school systems and enacted social legislation beneficial to poor whites and white women, as well as the freed men and women. Under black representative leadership, the South was rising again.
We were 8 years in power. We had built schoolhouses, established creditable institutions, built and maintained the penitentiary system, built and rebuilt the jails, courthouses, and the bridges. In short, we had reconstructed the states and placed them on the road to prosperity.
But this brief 10-year experiment in democracy, now called Black Reconstruction, was considered un-American by the former slaveholders and white supremacists who believed that honest work was beneath the white man, and they were determined to exploit the freedmen. They believed that blacks had been created solely for the use of whites. They wanted slavery back, along with its free black labor. But first, the black Republicans had to be driven from office and away from the ballot box. Southern Democrats and the Ku Klux Klan organized a war of terror with the explicit purpose of defying the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution and overthrowing legitimate state governments.
Organize! 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 We must render this a white man's government or convert the land into a black man's cemetery. We shall carry this next election if we have to ride saddle deep in blood to do it.
Black elected officials were driven from office or assassinated. By 1880, 130,000 black and white Republicans who voted against legal reenslavement, Union men, and loyal Southern whites were murdered by terrorist organizations.
We've done our level best. We've scratched our heads to try to figure how we could eliminate the last one of them. We've stuffed the ballot boxes. We've shot them. We are not ashamed.
By the 1890s, the terrible 90s as they are now called, mob violence and lynch murders had reached staggering proportions. A black was being lynched every day. It would be World War II and the concentration camps of Nazi Germany before the world would see anything like it again. This ugly mood moved north. Many northern white abolitionists even blamed blacks for the problem. By the turn of the century, race riots and lynchings had become American experiences, in the North as well as the South, and Jim Crow the legal pattern for a systematic re-enslavement. But it was the riot in Abraham Lincoln's hometown of Springfield, Illinois, that forced a new turn in American history.
I was in Springfield, too. I yelled, "Curse the day that Lincoln freed the niggers." Abe Lincoln brought the niggers to Springfield, and we'll drive them out.
My wife, Anna Stronsky, was born a Jew in Russia and was imprisoned there. But after our investigation of the Springfield riots, we were convinced that America's atrocities committed against the Negro were even worse than Russia's treatment of the Jew.
Unlike all other atrocities, however, this riot would sow the seeds of freedom. The prospect of a second civil war and the growth of the community-sanctioned violence in the North moved this man to action.
My name is William English Walling. My family owned slaves in Kentucky, but I have devoted my life to fighting enslavement of any form, including that of the laboring classes. I conceived the idea of a national biracial organization of fair-minded whites and intelligent blacks to stop the warfare against the blacks and to advance their welfare. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People was born in my New York apartment in January of 1909.
Mary White Ovington.
I am perhaps the first member of the NAACP. In the summer of 1908, the country was shocked by the account of the race riots in Springfield, Illinois. Here in the home of Abraham Lincoln, a mob containing some of the town's best citizens raged for 2 days, killed and wounded scores of Negroes, and drove thousands from the city. It was then that the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People was born.
I'm Oswald Garrison Villard, president of the New York Evening Post and grandson of William Lloyd Garrison, the famous abolitionist. I published The Call on February 12, 1909. If Mr. Lincoln could revisit this country in the flesh, he would be disheartened and discouraged. He would learn that on January 1st, 1909, Georgia rounded out a new confederacy by disfranchising the Negro after the manner of all the other southern states. He would learn that the Supreme Court of the United States, supposedly a bulwark of American liberties, had refused every time to pass squarely upon this disfranchisement of millions by laws avowedly discriminatory and openly enforced so that the white man may vote and the black man be without a vote in their government. In many states, Lincoln would find justice enforced, if at all, by judges elected by one element in the community to pass upon the liberties and lives of another. He would see the black men and women for whose freedom 100,000 of soldiers gave their lives, set apart in trains, paying first-class fares for third-class service, segregated in railway stations and in places of entertainment. Added to this, the spread of lawless attacks upon the Negro, north, south, and west, even in the Springfield made famous by Lincoln, revolting brutalities sparing neither sex nor age nor youth could but shock the author of the sentiment that government of the people, by the people, for the people should not perish from the earth. Silence under these conditions means tacit approval. The indifference of the North is already responsible for more than one assault upon democracy, and every such attack reacts as unfavorably against whites as it does blacks. Discrimination, once permitted, cannot be bridled. A house divided against itself cannot stand. A government cannot exist half slave, half free any better today than it did in 1861. And hence we call upon all believers in democracy to renew the struggle for civil and political liberty.
Because racism was so entrenched at the turn of the century, an independent black protest action had little chance of survival, as the all-black Niagara movement of 1905 demonstrated. Under these prevailing conditions of vindictive racism, if white people had not been prominent in its founding and policy implementation, the association as a viable force would not have been born. Over the years, however, Afro-Americans would play an increasingly dominant role in the association, especially this man.
I'm Dr. William Edward Burghardt Dubois, widely known as W.E.B. Du Bois. I wrote The Souls of Black Folk in 1903 and became a founder of the NAACP in 1909, becoming its most prominent black member and the founding editor of the Crisis magazine.
I am Ida B. Wells Barnett, editor and publisher of the Memphis Free Speech. I also started the anti-lynching crusade and proved that mob murders were not a necessary evil. When the NAACP was organized, I was a founding member. As I have said frequently, resistance to tyranny is obedience to God.
I have the distinction of being the first Negro secretary of the NAACP, and am thrilled to be the author of Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem. My name is James Weldon Johnson.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with.
Toughened by the post-slavery denial of freedom and the subsequent reign of terror of lynch murders and Jim Crow segregation with all of its humiliating aspects, the rejected African Americans turned more and more to faith in a God who would deliver them from oppression. In 1900, James Weldon Johnson and his brother Rosamond captured this invisible black church of faith in a song, perhaps by divine accident.
Loud as the rolling sea. God of our victories, God of our silent tears.
The NAACP's 75-year march for freedom and justice over racial intolerance has trampled racism under its feet and knocked down segregation barriers. It is a march rooted in faith. Faith in a democracy that had lost faith in itself. And throughout it all, this faith was based on an abiding faith in God.
The NAACP has marched for us for 75 years. During her Diamond Jubilee anniversary celebration, won't you join our march by taking out a membership? But right now, please join us in a happy birthday salute to our nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization by standing and singing a stanza of the hymn that it adopted, the Black National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing.
Sing.